Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I've received quite a few requests for videos over division, including the strategies that I use to help the kids. So today I would like to focus on four main things. As you can see here, I'm going to focus on ratio tables, explaining what those are, labeling them as top, bot, sub to help our students remember what to use when, setting up our problems for success, and then the overall solving of the problem. So before I continue, let me go ahead and zoom in here a little bit to make sure everyone's able to see properly as we work on this together. Here we go. Now, when I talk about ratio tables, let's consider the problem, excuse me, 228 divided by 3. To solve any division problem, the most important part of the problem is always the divisor, in this case the number 3. And when we talk about setting up ratio tables, what we want to do is make a ratio table with the number 3. And what I mean by a ratio table is simply the multiples of the number 3. As most parents will recognize, we all understand that the number 3 is the number that we're making groups of out of 228. And that if we can find all the numbers or multiples of 3 up till 9, those are the only numbers we'll actually have to use while solving this process, which is why it's important to list those numbers, list those multiples before actually solving the problem. This would be included in our setting up for success. But anyway, let's go ahead and get back to this ratio table. To find the multiples, we would always start with that divisor number 3. And we're going to find times, starting with times 0 equals 0, of course. The next one would be 3 times 1 equals 3. And I'm going to go ahead and number these all the way down to 9. The reason we only go to 9 is because all of these numbers on this left-hand side that we're going to use, we're going to find out later that they all go up top in a certain place value, and the highest number that can be used in place value is the number 9. So students don't actually have to write out this 3 times 1, 3 times 0 all the way. Most students will get in the habit of doing just this table right here with the factor by which they're multiplying, 0 through 9, and then the product of that factor with the divisor. So let me go ahead and finish that out. 3 times 2 is 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, and 27. Now that we have all the numbers that we need, we can go ahead and label for top, bot, sub. Like I said before, all these numbers here on the left, they will only ever be used as part of the place value in the quotient or in the answer for the problem. So these numbers here on the left of the table will only ever go on top of our problem, meaning up here on top. Whereas all the numbers on the right will only ever go on the bottom or somewhere in the body of our solving the problem. Last but not least, anytime we use a number here in the bot column, that number will always, always, always be subtracted whenever we move it to the bottom, which is why we ask the students to label these top, bot, sub. Now, last thing we need to do to set ourselves up for success is to go ahead and I ask the students to draw a dash mark above each number in the dividend so they know how many digits should be in their quotient for their answer before they even begin. Another popular strategy that I will use with the kids is what I call hide and slide. The idea behind hide and slide is that we help the students focus only on the part of the problem that they need to focus on one step at a time. And what I mean is when we're dividing 228 by 3, we'd always focus by just going to the first number and seeing if we can get any groups of 3 with the number 2. Well, I know that I can't make any groups of 3 with the number 2 because if I had 2 pencils, there's no way to make a group of 3 pencils. What I will encourage your students to do is to look over here to their ratio table at top bot sub. Since we're working with the number 2, I will ask them to find the number 2 or the number closest to it without going over. And the only column they're allowed to look at to find that number 2 is the bot column. So if we're looking for the number 2, we want the number that is close to it without going over, we can see that coming down here, 3 is bigger than 2, so it's not going to work. So 0 is the closest number available without going over 2. So I tell the kids to circle it. Since we circled that 0, we're also going to circle the 0 right next to it. Now we need to go ahead and put each of those zeros in the proper place in our division problem. Since this 0 here has the word top above it, we know that this 0 needs to go on top of our division problem. And this 0 in the bot column needs to go down here underneath that 2 that we were using. And again, anything we use in this bot column in this second row, the reason we have written sub at the bottom is to remind our students that we subtract whatever value we've brought in from that number. So 2 minus 0 would give us 2. Most students know that after this point they need to go ahead and bring down the next number, in which case it would be 2, which now, if we were using hide and slide, we now know that we are working with the number 22 instead of just 2. And as you can see, there's a blank space up there that we need to fill. So this time we need to figure out how many groups of 3 can we make out of 22. Students don't need to know their multiples, or if they don't understand that concept, they can come over here and look at their top bot sub. And again, the highest number we're looking for is 22. We want to get as close to it as possible without going over. If you look very carefully, 18 is not as big as 22, 21 is not as big, but 24 is bigger. So we'll go back to 21, and 21 is the number we will have to use. And we also circle the number next to it, which in this case is 7. So the 7 goes on top, the 21 goes on bottom, and anything on bottom we always subtract. 22 minus 21 gives us 1 left over, and then we're going to bring down so that we can repeat. Last but not least, I'm looking for how many times will the number 3 go into 18. So I come back to top bot sub. I'm looking for the number 18, or the number closest to it without going over. We see right away there is exactly 18, and the number next to it is 6. Since we got exactly the right number, chances are we're not going to have a remainder, but let's stick with our rules. The 6 is in the top column, so I'm going to put the 6 up top, and the 18 is in the bot column, so I'm going to put the 18 at the bottom. I always subtract what I put at the bottom. There's nothing left over. There's nothing left to bring down, so I'm finished. 228 divided by 3 equals 76. Look forward to some of my future videos where I go over division with short division, as well as division with 2 digits on the outside instead of just 1. Thanks again, and y'all have a great day.